With 2020 halfway done, it's about time to recap the 10 best movies I've seen so far this year. 2020, it has been an interesting year. With all of this time sitting at home in quarantine, I've had the chance to watch a lot of movies I might not have normally had the time to get around to, and some that I unfortunately wish I'd skipped. It's also been a great opportunity to get my family involved in watching new movies with me. So here are my top 10 movies so far of 2020. Once the Obamas left office in 2016, they started a production company called Higher Ground. Last year's American Factory was one of my favorite documentaries of the year, and they came back strong this year with Crip Camp, a disability revolution. Camp Gen Ed was a revolutionary summer camp in the 1960s for teens with disabilities. Combining home videos from their time at the summer camp with news footage from the civil rights movement and modern interviews, the documentary paints a complete picture for the fight for inequality these kids face their whole lives. Most kids at camp play in the sun, smoke weed, and hook up. Camp Gen Ed kids did all of the same, and then went on to change the world. Director Josephine Decker's debut feature, Madeline's Madeline, is in my top 150 favorite movies of all time. So I guess you could say I was excited for her follow-up, Shirley. Starring Elizabeth Moss as horror writer Shirley Jackson, Shirley is a challenging whirlwind of bad bitch energy that frantically moves through the author's life. Moss gives one of the best performances of the year as the alcoholic recluse, and supporting actors like the always great Michael Stuhlbarg and newcomer Odessa Young fill out the cast perfectly. While I couldn't connect with Shirley like I did with Madeline's Madeline, I can't deny Decker's unique voice and skill behind the camera. Ben Affleck had been on a bit of a lull in acclaimed performances since 2014's Gone Girl. Sure, he'd been doing the blockbuster rounds, but I was waiting for him to give another awards-worthy performance, which he certainly delivers in The Way Back. Having dealt with alcoholism in his personal life, it was particularly moving to watch him play the alcoholic former basketball star Jack. Director Gavin O'Connor is no stranger to sports-inspired movies, and The Way Back was just as moving and exciting. With a soft piano score by Rob Simonson and slow-motion three-pointers, The Way Back is the perfect movie to watch with your dad this year. Palm Springs is the most fun I've had watching a movie so far this year. Created by SNL alums The Lonely Island,
I'm on a boat, motherfucker, take a look at me.
Palm Springs is a fresh take on that infinite time loop situation you might have heard about. Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti are charmingly adorable as the two underachievers stuck in said time loop, and watching all of the debaucherous things they do in a world with no consequences is hilarious. Palm Springs' humor is dark, but that should go unsaid for a world where you can never die. When my parents and I finished this movie, we were trying to think about anything wrong with it, and we couldn't do it. If I was stuck in a time loop, I wonder how many times I'd watch this movie. It would be a lot. I was surprised by just how good Bad Education was when I watched it on HBO earlier this year. In a mini metaphor for some of the government corruption we see today, Corey Finley's sophomore feature has knockout performances and some cleverly hilarious moments. Hugh Jackman's character, the Superintendent Frank, is one of the most complex characters I've seen recently. A lot of the credit for this goes to the slow unraveling of the script and Jackman's layered performance. This seems like the kind of film that could get forgotten in the shuffle, so check out Bad Education while you've still got the time. Spike Lee is a fucking legend. I got the chance to meet him last year at a screening of BlacKkKlansman in Los Angeles, and the man is a genius. It's great to see him getting the recognition he's deserved his whole career, and Da 5 Bloods is no exception. Maneuvering between the past and present in Vietnam, Da 5 Bloods focuses on a squad of African-American soldiers who travel back to the jungles they used to fight in to retrieve gold they buried there decades before. It's a beautifully moving exploration on the America that was, and is, and the reasons people fought for it. Delroy Lindo is a name I had never heard before, but after his powerhouse performance in this movie, get ready to hear his name come up again in awards season. When quarantine struck, First Cow was one of the movies I have been looking forward to seeing in theaters. Thanks to being released on demand through the local Music Box Theater in Chicago, I got the chance to catch this with a Q&A from director Kelly Reichardt. This was the slowest moving film I've seen so far, but in Reichardt's words, that had a purpose. Time moves slower in the 1800s, and her camera captures the mundanity of those times immaculately. The performances are all subtle, but sell a true friendship between the two men at the center of the story. Plus, the titular cow is a scene stealer. Kitty Green's The Assistant is everything Bombshell should have been. In all the ways Bombshell was over the top and tried to be comedic, The Assistant does the opposite by crafting a silently uneasy film tackling the Me Too movement. Following the life of Julia Garner's character during one day in an unnamed production office, The Assistant is a horrifying depiction of the way some men abuse their power in Hollywood. After the Harvey Weinstein scandal and the numerous women who bravely came forward about their sexual harassment in the industry, The Assistant is a movie that could have only been made this well in 2020. It's telling that 2 of the top 3 movies I've seen so far this year are created by women, about women. Eliza Hittman's Never, Rarely, Sometimes, Always is similar to The Assistant in how it takes a voyeuristic approach to the story. Autumn is a young girl who, with the help of her friend Skylar, must travel to New York City to get an abortion. Their journey is one of many encounters with men who take advantage of them and the women who help them along the way. It also shows an unprecedented look, for me at least, at the abortion process in America. There is one scene towards the end of this movie, and you'll know it when you see it, that is easily the most moving scene of the year so far. The best movie I've seen so far this year is one you might not have heard of. I remember one night my dad and I were looking for something to watch, and I had seen the trailer for The Painter and the Thief that day, and we decided it couldn't be missed. The documentary is one of those too good to be true stories. A thief steals a woman's artwork at a rough time in his life, and after he's convicted, the artist befriends him and decides to make him the subject of her work. What follows is a meditation on guilt, inner demons, and finding beautiful art in the darkest places. I'm a sucker for films about art because I find the process so interesting, even though my art skills aren't quite what I hoped they'd be. With the year only halfway done and so many great titles yet to come, 2020 is shaping up to be another amazing year for cinema. COVID-19 has affected the industry in so many ways with delayed releases, straight-to-on-demand showings, and the rise of new streaming services. One great thing about it, though, looking on the bright side, is the overabundance of time we now have to watch some good movies. I'm going to start posting more video essays and lists on my YouTube, so make sure to subscribe to keep up to date on all of the Morris Movie List content. Here's to a better second half of 2020, everyone.